Well, The Walking Dead came to an end. So, what do you think? Let's get into it. Here's this Perch. The Walking Dead coming to a surprise ending. A couple of things there. Kirkman had some solicitations for future issues coming up in Walking Dead. Those were fake. The plan was always to end the comic. Somebody came up with this is really unfair to Diamond. I, of all the bad takes in the world, who cares what's bad for Diamond? But seriously, no, Diamond knew. I mean, they shipped a larger than normal issue. There was some special handling around it. There had to be some mechanisms. This was not a surprise to Diamond. The solicitations can be canceled easy enough. Comic companies do cancel solicitations all the time. They don't do stealth, endings of titles like this very often. It has happened before. I'm struggling to remember how, but I know this has occurred before. A couple of events have done this. I know Marvel did this for either Civil War or some of the fallout of Civil War, where they had some comics solicited that actually weren't true, and they were designed to just keep the ending from getting spoiled. But outside of all that, Walking Dead coming to a close. What's funny is there's a video that I have. I don't know when it will air, so it either already aired or it will air soon. About kind of going out on top or writing to an end. It's this idea that if you have a concept and you have a story, it's better to have a beginning, middle, and end rather than live in kind of forever ambiguous state. And that's easier said than done for certainly the big two versus the indie publishers. Kirkman owned The Walking Dead, built a massive franchise out of it, had the AMC show, became exceedingly rich. His net worth is, easily, I think 8 figures, 9 figures at this point. He's doing fine, and more power to him. That actually makes what he did all the more impressive because by ending the comic, you're essentially pulling the plug on part of the franchise. And we know the TV series is coming to an end, and he's winding down his series, and to be able to have the power to do that, to again go out on your own terms and control your destiny in that way is very fulfilling for a comic creator. It's what you dream of. Comics like Batman, Spider-Man, Superman, you can go on that thing, you can make it your own. I mean, Scott Snyder came in and really made Batman, not his own, just to a big extent. Yes, there are other Batman titles going on, but for a period of time, Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo were synonymous with Batman, and he got to tell the story he wanted to tell. It was massively popular. He was given a lot of leeway in what he did, and it's a celebrated run. But it's not like when he leaves, they get to cancel Batman. That's not going to happen, and that would never happen. So you think about, no matter what you do on a comic, you rarely get the chance to begin and end it on your terms unless it's yours, unless it's a independent indie title or a creator owned title. You don't get those options. So Walking Dead coming to an end, probably a good time. You could argue it actually went on a little bit too long. The last storyline, the community storyline, I think it was felt a little redundant in some cases, like it was treading the same ground, and maybe that was part of the they said it was all planned, but I do kind of wonder as they started getting into that storyline, if there wasn't a it's time kind of feeling, because a lot of the same themes were kind of going again and again. So it's an interesting run. And we're fortunate, I think, in comics to get something like this where you have a comic that is huge, very popular, becomes a TV show, takes on a life of its own. Arguably, the TV show and some of these things are bigger than The Walking Dead. That they made certainly more money and more global recognition than the comic. And we got to see all that start from just a basic little comic to a big media empire to an end. We got to see it all the way through. And in comics, we won't see things like that. We just won't. Even somebody compared it. Well, it's like Kick-Ass, like Mark Miller's Kick-Ass. It's actually nothing like Kick-Ass. Kick-Ass was what, 6 issues initially, and then there's some follow-ups to it. But and then some movies were made, and certainly some money was made out of those movies, but nothing even remotely to the scale of 100 more, almost 200 issues of The Walking Dead. Trades, TV shows, a spin-off TV show, toys, everything, and yet it still comes to a close. That's not, you're not going to see that happen. So that's unique, something unique we get to take and do. In terms of the comic, I think for me, I was there for the whole run from beginning to end. I was one of the people who started reading at the very beginning and said there's something special here. Yes, it's a zombie book and everything else, but it's going to have some longevity to it. The way it was being planned, I knew that this wasn't going to be 10 issues and done. For me, I think the prison sequence was always one of my favorites. I think that was done well. I think the governor and kind of that whole storyline was a good one. I wasn't a big fan of the Negan storyline. I wasn't a big fan of the Negan character for that matter either. And I think that always felt like the comic to some extent jumped the shark. I liked the feeling post prison and some of the kind of the on the road and wandering and trying to find their place. I liked that whole dynamic. I thought there was a sense of trying to find your a new world, a new place in this now zombie ridden hellhole. And I think to me that was always kind of the interesting bit of how these people would survive. Not in a, oh no, there's some human beings who have taken advantage of the zombie situation to be super mean and live in their worst instincts. That to me that's the Negan world, and that's been done a lot. It was done way ago with George Romero and kind of exploring those tropes in Night of the Living Dead. And by the same token, the actual threat of the zombies themselves gets old after a while. So to me, the magic of the series, or the parts I always enjoyed most, was how are these people going to recalibrate, kind of find a new way of living, explore this new world, and kind of rediscover things. I'm always a big fan of not dystopian books exactly, but places where humans are thrust out of their element into a familiar world, a world they thought they knew, but now it's changed. And how do they adapt to the change? And what are the dangers in it, and the love in it, and the excitement, and the good parts, bad parts. I like that whole dynamic of storytelling. So for that, Walking Dead gave us that. A big thank you to Kirkman, who did a great job, Charlie Allred, who I'm curious where that team goes. And also, kind of to cap this off, some pondering. The big rumor on the streets is we're seeing the slow end of Kirkman in comics. That we have the other two. Oblivion Song, I believe, has been discussed as having an end. That there's an end they're working toward. Not near term, but they at least can see it. And Outcast as well has an upcoming end, and that one we do know is coming fairly soon. Certainly in the next, I want to say 6 issues, but it may be longer now. Maybe it's in the next year. And what's next for Kirkman? Is he going to launch a new comic? Because by all accounts, it looks like he's winding them down. So does he become a producer for Skybound? Does he start to kind of curate titles that he can help with, but he's not directly creating? Is he Hollywood bound? Where do things sit? So, and interesting. If it feels to me like we're, and I've had some conversations with some people who told me some things off the record. So it feels like we're at least in the tail end of this guy as a comic creator. And so much like the Walking Dead title itself, we've seen kind of some beginnings, his work at Marvel, certainly the work at Walking Dead and Invincible and some of these titles. And, where will he go from here? Hopefully there's some more books under his belt. I like him a lot. I think he's a good guy, and I think he brings new things to the table. But If him bringing new things to the table means he's going to be kind of curating new comics and creating a new line or a new, building up that imprint, if you were building up that area for new creators to come in and kind of show what they've got, then that's a good outcome too. So there you go, the end of The Walking Dead. Some said it would never come, but here we are. Hey, what do you think? Leave me your comments on what you thought of the series, what you think of it ending. Is ending a good thing? And let me know below. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notification. I don't want to say hit the bell for notification. Just be notified if you want. Stupid bell. I don't know why I'm promoting this icon. Follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch, and thanks for listening.